Welcome back, everybody. Class is in session, so grab your number 2 pencils. This is the Schwarting Report, and grades are posted for the month of September of the year 2025. Beşiktaş had quite the month, you could say, this September. But before I dig in, let me just do my little intro. Of course, we're going to look at the club. We're going to review and grade the macro level stuff, the board, Serdar Adalı, and then Sergen Yalçın, his performance this month. And then we're going to look at each player individually, or by we, I mean I, in that case. Of course, for talk of Serdar Adalı, I'm going to have my dude, URAL Alkan, Le Financier, on to give his synopsis of the month in a life of our guy, the president of our club. But yeah, so obviously for folks who are not Patreon subscribers or YouTube Premium members or whatever it's called, hatchlings, you're wondering, what am I seeing the Schwarting Report so early in the month for? Because usually this comes out like a good week and change into the month. Because usually you get late access. This is for Patreon subscribers first. But yeah, this month, I was not on the last 2 episodes. This is in part to quell any fears. I haven't left the show. Just scheduling conflicts. My daughter has also fallen in love with the sport that we all love so much, and so she's on like multiple teams, and I'm, anyway, just scheduling conflicts. Short term. I'll be back certainly for this next episode, where we talk about the match against Galatasaray. Hopefully it'll be a fun one, and we'll have good things to discuss. But we'll get there when we get there. So of course this month, I'm just giving you guys free access, early access, a little bit of a promo. Hopefully this entices you to become a Patreon subscriber. For Patreon subscribers, I will of course put the images that I am using to do all of this analysis with up. So if you don't want to hear me ramble for the next hour or so, you folks will be lending me your ears for about that long as I review the month. But if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can just see the images, and I've got the top, whatever it is, 24 players this month in my little comments. You can get all the charts and everything that I've made, so you don't have to hear me talk for the next however long it is. But anyway, for those of you who are stuck listening to me, let's dig in, I suppose. Of course, September was a crazy month. 4 matches. As always, I add one extra match just to give you some context for where we were coming from, which was not a great place. Sergen's first match in charge was against Alanyaspor. We'll give him a little, grace for that one, right? Like, that's only fair. So yeah, right out of the gates, of course, we play Başakşehir here. Not our finest performance, I think most would agree. But yeah, kind of an exciting one nonetheless. Of course, it's El Bilal Toure who equalizes off of a Vaclav Černý assist. And then late in this one, in the 91st minute, Cengiz Ünder gives us the go-ahead goal. His first appearance for the club. A lovely assist from Demir Egetiknaz. And yeah, so we win. Not a great match, again, but plenty to some vibes, I guess we'll say, that we hope will carry through to the next one. Of course, the next match is in Izmir against Göztepe. That's a tough one. We lose 3-0. Yeah, we'll dig into some of the specifics, but I don't know. Real briefly, I suppose I got to mention it was Necip who starts as our 6 in that one, which is a key contributor for how things went. Gökhan Sazdai also, his honeymoon period lasted 1 match. He had a great first appearance and then a terrible match against Göztepe. And so those two combined to really hurt us defensively. Anyway, coming into the next match against Kayseri, this was a funky one in that neither of us could play a number of our transfers because they had come in after this match was originally scheduled, which this was supposed to be our first match of the season. So we both had to play makeshift lineups. And of course, you'd think we would have the advantage as such, because they were missing as many, if not more, guys as we were. But of course, we've just come off of a terrible loss in Izmir. we're not especially confident about anything these days. So, and especially given that all of the holes in our own lineup, given this wonky rule about registration. But yeah, all the same, we come out on top. A lovely 4-0 win, in fact, or 0-4. I didn't realize we were on the road twice in a row, huh? Rafa Silva scores the first goal. Orkun Kokcu, a lovely assist. Welcome to the stat boards, my guy. His first assist, his first stat for the club, and only one for the month, as a matter of fact. Rafa Silva scores the second goal as well. Tammy Abraham the third, and then Rafa completes his hat trick, his fourth, with an assist by Milot Rashica. I should mention that Rashica gets on the stat board. I mean, he's not going to get a grade from me this month because he didn't play enough to merit one, but he did have a stat, so that, credit to him. I'd be remiss not to mention. And then finally against Kocaeli, we were at home, came out of the gates looking pretty hot, right? Again, Rafa Silva gets things going. A lovely assist from Tammy Abraham. Vaclav Černý scores the second goal. Kind of a clever little play, I guess. Also a big goof by their goalkeeper, but whatever. We won't really talk about that. Finally, it was an own goal at the end in the 93rd minute to wrap things up. Whether or not it's an own goal is under dispute, because like the TFF, I think, made the claim that it was actually Jota Silva that was given credit for it. FotMob has listed as an own goal. I gave it to Jota because what the hell, it's a feel-good story. Stay hydrated, folks. But yeah, let's move on. So that's the month, keeping it real brief, as I tend to do for these things. Because, if you want to hear about our analysis for each one of these matches, obviously listen to the main podcast. Every week we go live talking about those matches, and you'll hear much more in-depth, astute analysis that came hot out of the gates, after each match. So I'm not going to rehash too much of that. But so yeah, let's talk about the big picture stuff. Serdar Adali, of course, we're dealing with the end of the transfer window. He gave a huge press conference this month, and there's some other news that came out about finances, but I'm not really the one to discuss that. We need our dude, le financier, URAL Alkan, to come in, and I don't know what his deal was. He's supposed to travel to Ankara, so he might be too busy to weigh in this month, but let's I see. Lucky us. All right, let me take this call.
Hello. Hi, Sinan. How are you today? I guess you're feeling very pleased about the 3 points against Kocaeli. Well, I am, and I'm looking forward, of course, to Saturday's game. Hopefully we can get 3 points there as well. Well, it's time for the Schwarting report, and I thought let's do it a little bit different this time. There was some news, but not a lot about Adala. But he gave a very important press conference after to wrap up the transfer window, so to say. And of course, Kaan gave a very nice and insightful, made a podcast episode about it. So I thought let's just comment. I want to comment on a little bit rant maybe on what Adala said during the press conference. But if you want to know what he said exactly and also hear Kaan's response on this per item or per statement, then please, I would like to refer everybody to that episode. But all in all, I think it was good that Adala held a press conference to give some insights on the transfer period, of course. I'm not going to dive into to each transfer and the deals that he made, but I think in general you can see that he really struggled with the transfer window. They had a couple of picks per position, and they couldn't get in the first pick, also not the second pick, even not the third picks. So that I think caused the late transfers, convincing players to come, and then having this result. I'll leave it up to you if it's a good or bad result all in all. But I think personally, Adama lacked, it was his incompetence or his team's incompetence to get, I think, the players that they wanted in first instance or even second instance. So having said that, I think there was a big cleanup, of course. 12 new players, 25 outgoing, a huge financial impact for the incoming players. Because, well, basically, with the way that everything was financially constructed, installments for a lot of players to pay for the transfer fee, yeah, that already limits your budget for the next years. So I'm very curious to see how that will be reflected in the financial report. There will be a meeting, I think, upcoming month, so in October. There will be a meeting about the financial report, and that should show us, well, basically the actual result of the steps that they've taken and the deals that they've made. And well, I wouldn't be surprised if we have quite an increase of liabilities on our financial report based on the transfers they've made. Fener, I think they announced that their debt rose to 21 billion. I'm expecting that Beşiktaş will also have quite a steep increase based on this. And obviously, the Dikilitaş project ties into this, but we can already say that the easing of the budget that Dikilitaş was going to present, that's already spent, so to say. So that will definitely have a huge impact on the financial statements. But coming back to the statements that he's made and sort of the message that he gave, I'm still sort of baffled by the way he communicates with everybody and his statements and his way of thinking. I think maybe he's unknowingly incompetent, but I really truly believe that he thinks that he's taking the right steps. And I want to ask you, so we had a capital increase in March. Everybody said, okay, why aren't shareholders or why aren't rich Beşiktaş people stepping in? Then my question to those people now would be, how would you feel as a shareholder that the board, you step in, you buy more shares, and a couple of months later, the president of the club says, no, you know what, I don't care about Europe, I want to focus on this, just on the Super League. Missing FaceTime, missing publicity in the European leagues, missing income. How would you feel as an investor in a company that sort of a lucrative league is set aside or is not made a priority by the club's president? I think that's very questionable, especially if you have high expectations and want people to invest in your company. He also said that he's more of a fan, which I think is very dangerous. Well, I understand that he loves the club and he has a huge tie to it, but I think when it comes to business, and especially if you're a president, I think that fandom should not play a role in your decisions. So also there, I think in a way, I know he intends it, his intention is well, but I don't think it's a statement that he should make, because it also shows that when it comes to decisions, that his fan heart could overtake maybe a bad decision or a good decision. So that's, I think, also again very questionable. He also scolded some journalists, well, at least one journalist, and also referred to somebody else. I wasn't sure about who, but in general, I think if they're going to call out journalists or outlets, I think you either do it with all of them, and I don't think you can single out just one. Remember, there's a board member who's sponsoring a media channel. Again, allegedly, this is unconfirmed, but still, it makes it very dubious if you do these type of things. So if you're going to call out, then do it with everyone who wronged us, who wronged the club or you as a president. But just picking out one name as an example, I don't think that's the right way or the right relation you should have with the media. And what also was interesting that this was Sergen's statement, a coach that you brought in. He started complaining about the transfers, which is also tells me, okay, how is this relation between Sergen that he brought in and the president? Because they had a plan, they had a strategy. Obviously, they diverted from this plan and strategy with Sergen coming, with the last two transfers of Cengiz and Gökhan. Okay, those were Sergen's pick. You can do that, but Sergen is definitely not in agreement with the transfer strategy. So what does this tell us, and how is this going to pan out in the winter transfer period, and even in the summer period if we come to that? So I think also a very highly questionable position and a relation, I think, even between them. I hope they sort it out. I'm in favor of stability, so I think the president should stay, Sergen should stay. We should sit this out. But yeah, it doesn't give much confidence at the moment, the way both of them are acting and reflecting on the transfer period, I would say. A special mention, of course, to the Arroyo and Elan transfers, Ricardo Elan. As you remember, these were sponsored transfers, so the sponsor was going to buy them, and then it would be for the benefit of the club. Adal specifically mentioned that that the club is going to make 2 million profit out of this transfer for Arroyo, and shouldn't that be 8 million or 8.5 million even? Since the sponsor was going to buy Kenny Arroyo. So let's see what they will state in the financial report. But I guess, or based on this, my assumption is that Mr. Demirören, who was a sponsor to buy him, is going to weasel out of this and not put his money in. So yes, we have a profit, but it shouldn't be 2. The profit should be 8.5 million, which is a much significant result than, of course, the 2 million. So I'm very curious to the financial report. I guess I will definitely update you again on the Schwarting report, of course. Expect a record debt. And two more important topics. Where's the Rams sponsorship? We haven't heard anything about this. And also, I forgot the last point. That's interesting. The Dignitas, of course. The document should be signed. So where is the plan? When are we moving ahead? When is this happening? Why is there delay and complete radio silence about this? So yeah, it makes me, on a business level, financial level, it makes me very uneasy. Hope it doesn't reflect on the results. Hope the team will move on as they move forward as they should. That gives us hope, and hopefully Adal steers this also in calmer waters with the next financial report. So a bit of a take on Adal's press conference. Not a full one, of course, but I think, well, you know how I feel about his decisions and the way he communicates. But that's it, I think, for now. We'll keep track. We'll watch closely, and looking forward to the next Schwarting report. Back to you, Mr. Schwarting. Oh, wait, I forgot something very important. Of course, the statement about the Mucci and Musrati transfers. So, as you know, Adal reported these two transfers to the public prosecutor because he thinks there was some wrongdoing by Hasan Arat board with these transfers. So he basically explained more about what happened. And they said, well, the club now needs to pay, so Beşiktaş needs to pay the transfer fee to intermediary or third parties, funds, he called them. But other parties than the clubs who owned Mucci and Musrati. So he didn't say more than that. He says, well, this is very peculiar, and this is investigated. So this part is investigated, these two transfers. But to me, it doesn't tell that much. So basically, he's saying that these clubs assigned their right to the transfer fee to a third party, I think that's quite a normal conduct in financial agreements. That can happen. I don't know how much it happens with football clubs, but it's not unusual in the financing world. But the question is, of course, is anyone of Hassan Arad or Hussein Yücel, etc., his board, related to those companies, or was the fee increased with sort of incredible amounts that is wrongdoing, right? So a percentage for the factoring company is normal, or a financing percentage, because they pre-finance the deal. Then they pay the club, and then Beşiktaş pays that intermediate party later on in installments or whatever the agreement is, and obviously there's a fee attached to it. Allegedly, Mucci was offered for 4 million to another club, and we bought it for 10 million. Yeah, such a difference in price would of course be ridiculous, just to have this setup or being able to buy it via this setup. That's of course unacceptable, and that would show wrongdoing. But being able to prove this, I think that's going to be very difficult. But we'll see. What I find difficult here with Alal's statement is, well, you don't have any proof yet. There's still no outcome of this. So maybe you should just keep it quiet until the prosecutor has decided on things, instead of, being sort of a gossip, girl trying to get this out and get a lot of speculation out on this. Well, it doesn't. Well, at the moment, doesn't prove much. That was my last note. Thanks again. Back to you.
Gossip girl, I love that. Boy, well, first of all, thank you so much yet again, URAL. You gotta love having our own special financier to weigh in on these things and to sort of translate everything going on in the back room and give us his opinion. And so before I weigh in with my own grades, just a little bit of flashback for those who want to remember where we were last month as far as ratings and grades and all of that. Right? How about it? We got some new sound effects, folks. Yeah. So, this is where we were last month. You'll see João Mario as our starting left wing, Milot Rashica right wing, Gabriel Paulista as our right central back, Svensson still in there. All right, so there would be some changes. If you want a moment, pause here, look at the grades. But let's look at the current ones. And by the way, you'll see Ole there was our coach. I gave a grade to him. I'm trying to see. He went, 3-1-1 last month. The one loss being against Lausanne, which he was basically set up to lose. And so it's worth noting that Sergen also went 3-1-1 since then. So Ole's B- is also Sergen's B-. But here are the grades for this month. And you'll see the FOTMOB ratings. Again, the numbers are not my own. Take a look, no real surprises here. Rafa Silva, 4 goals on the month. He obviously scored the most for us this month. Vaclav Cherny, Elbilal Toure, Tammy Abraham, Hota Silva, Cengiz Ünder, they each had goals as well. Highest rated player this month was Rafa Silva. Probably no shock there given his last 2 performances. Shouts of course to Elbilal Toure and Vaclav Cherny. We've been talking about how we needed wings. Apparently we were underselling that point, but they both played quite well statistically. We'll get into, to be 100% honest, I think these numbers don't really tell much of a story, and I'll get into why. If you look at the grades over there, you'll see that they don't necessarily correlate. Like, for example, Mert had a 6.7 numbers rating on FOTMOB, but I gave him a B, which was like better than Felix, for example, who had a higher number rating, better than Sazdai, who had a 7.07. So these numbers just aren't very telling, to be 100% honest. We'll talk a little bit about that real quickly. Teacher's pet this month, obviously Rafa Silva, 4 goals, all of them in these last two matches of the month. A number of bangers within those goals. Just a great month for him. Perhaps like his best 2-match stretch in our jersey, which is crazy given what he's done for us thus far. But he really, just phenomenal stuff from him. Class clown, Necip and Salih Uçan both got featured in the 6th role in subsequent weeks. Neither played well. Salih had like a historically low rating according to my system. I was shocked to encounter it. And then Necip came out the next week and was in the red again. So some negative tinkering on the part of Sergen, but I gave him a B- anyway, just because look, 3-1-1, and then the 1 is from the month previous, so that helped him a little too, probably. I mean, some big mistakes. I think you could probably say that the Göztepe result, he had a big part in that loss. Not gonna lie, and he didn't really help much against Başakşehir or I mean, we were good in these last 2 matches, obviously, so I'm not going to complain at all. It seems like at least he's adapting and tinkering and kind of figuring things out on the job. So, again, 3-1-0 this month. For Serdar Adali, I gave him a D-. Everything URAL said was spot on. Again, check out Khan's special Patreon episode where he went over the press conference that Serdar Adali did, and then my thinking was I didn't want to give him an F like I did last month because it was kind of typical stuff from him. The end of the transfer window didn't go quite according to plan, but that was kind of settled almost by the end of the previous month, to be 100% honest. And so that last little bit, he got Hota, he kind of made some of the moves that needed to be made, I suppose. We could talk about the Cengiz stuff and the Sazdai thing. I'd much rather see Taylan Bulu play. I don't like that Sergen's not playing him. That factors into that B- for sure. But, yeah, look, man, it is what it is. Basically, I was going to give him a D, and then, I got news that from that press conference that he actually did offer a contract to Masuaku, which I gave him a bump up for that. I think you got to make him an offer. People wanted to write him off. That was stupid, I think. It was the right thing to make an offer. He's coming off a great season. So it's good to know they actually tried, but then also that they didn't overextend him and put us in a situation where we'd be hurt by that extension. So I think they actually made the right call there. But then I gave him points off for not really addressing the left wing thing and for the Jadon Sancho fiasco. So they went from a D+ back to a D and a D- when he finally got rid of João Mario, which I thought was incredibly stupid. You don't get rid of the guy who's number 1 in the Schwarting Report power rankings and get away with it. You bastard. But yeah, so take one last look at the FOTMOB ratings for the month and, whatever else is happening there. One last thing, Saved by the Bell. Another sound effect. I'm giving Saved by the Bell to Emirhan Topçu, who looked just about out of the rotation for the most part. Looked like maybe Sergen didn't want him to play. A couple slip-ups by Gabriel Paulista, Felix Urukai. Not really. Mostly Paulista. Kind of gave an opening for Emirhan to play in the Kayseri match. He played well in that one. Actually, very well, which basically cemented his role, and he started again in the Kocaeli match and played well again. And so I think he's very much cemented a spot in that rotation at the very least, if not a starting role. So he used the end of the month and that little sort of sliver and opportunity that he had to really seize perhaps a starting role in the start. On Beşiktaş, if not certainly a consistent role in the rotation at the very least. I mean, Felix didn't play that poorly. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about the previous month, and again, let's flash back a little bit to where we're coming from. I love sound effects, huh? Yeah. So, like I said, João Mario was number 1 in the power rankings coming into the month. Tammy Abraham in 2nd, Orkun 3rd, Gabriel Paulista 4th, which is pretty wild. Rafa Silva in 5th. Then Emirhan, Wilfred Ndidi, a number, it was a very small sample size for that first. That was just the month and like change, right? July didn't give us much to work with. So you knew this was going to change a lot, especially like João Mario being on top. Even if he'd stayed, that wasn't going to be the case throughout the course of the season, one assumed. Same thing with Paulista. That was a case of him having played the most. There were a lot of guys in and out of the rotation early on, as people were tinkering. Various managers were tinkering with new players and whatnot. But anyway, let's see where things shook out after this month and how this here would change after we got real, more stuff added to the data pool. And so we start with the back end of the month. Salih Uçan, who had, one appearance. Salih only played in one uncomfortable win against Beşiktaş, but it was an exceptionally poor performance. In his defense, it was his first of the season, his first performance, first match of the season, and he was slightly out of position. Nonetheless, I had him rated as our worst player, 14 out of 14. We had 14 players, so only 3 subs from Sergen. That was another theme throughout the month. He never once used all 5 of his subs, I don't think. But yeah, Salih Uçan had a historically poor performance for us. And that was his only performance this month, so of course he was going to end up down there. Next to him, right above him, Necip Uysal. Another season, another coach hoping Necip can still supply a professional outing on the pitch. Sergen played as a 6. Sergen played him as a 6 against a relatively formidable Göztepe side, and the team paid the price. He also was subbed in versus Kayseri. That was sort of an unremarkable performance. Yeah, Necip was the lowest rated player in the Göztepe match. And actually the lowest rated player in the Kayseri match, but that's not because he did anything poor. That's just because he didn't stand out at all and he played very little. So nobody was in the red for that match. Basically, we won 4-0. So you wouldn't expect anyone to be, I suppose. But so yeah, nothing good from Necip this month. And right above him is Mustafa Hekimoğlu, who also only played once this month. He played against Kocaeli in a very brief stint. Mustafa finally returned from injury, subbing in late versus Kocaelispor. Though he didn't make much of an impact, his timing might be just right, with Tammy going down to injury, right, the dislocated shoulder, and El Bilal unavailable against Konyaspor in an upcoming match, for those who don't know. That's another one of these crazy, pre-registration matches like the Kayseri one. Yeah, he might be needed, Mustafa Hekimoğlu, right? We're not Mustafa Hekimoğlu. If we don't have El Bilal today, because he wasn't registered in time for that, and we don't have Tammy because of the shoulder, Mustafa will be the only forward we have. And then, of course, we could see a false 9 with Rafa, but I don't imagine we'll see that kind of tactical variability from Sergen, so could be good timing for the kid as far as returning from his injury goes. His one performance was the lowest rated performance against Kocaeli. Again, not because he played poorly, just because he had a minimal impact in a very brief stint in a game where we had a number of good performances. So, it's just sort of an unremarkable performance in among a team where almost everyone else had a positive impact. Of course, next on the list would be number 21, Jonas Svensson, who only featured in the match in Kayseri, in which Sazdai hadn't been registered for the club yet. He put in a more than professional shift, even prompting some, including myself, to wonder, is he definitely not the best right back in the squad? Is Sazdai the man? Verdict is still out, we'll say. Moving on to number 20, Devrim Şahin. Some people are getting really excited about his performance. I was listening to Khan and Kartal even getting, differing levels of excited. What are my thoughts on Devrim? When he played in a game in which everyone was pretty solid, and I had him rated as the 11th best player out of 14. But for reference, he was, I thought, better than Svensson, Rashica, who had an assist, and Necip, but not as impactful as anyone else on the starting team, which probably doesn't shock anyone. He was also the first guy to be subbed off. Anyway, remember what you were doing when you were 18? Devrim not only made his first professional performance at so young an age, against Kayserispor. But the kid performed pretty damn admirably as well. Bravo. I mean, we don't know if we could rely on him for that consistently, right? We've only seen that once. But it was a great way to make himself known. I think everyone wants to see more and know what do we have in this kid. Also, special shout out to that headshot of him. I don't know if you see it there. For anyone who's like driving right now, maybe pause. Murder Matt, if you're out there, I know. You like to listen while you're driving. Everyone's got to take a look at this headshot. I mean, it looks like it was taken back when my mom was living in Turkey in like the 60s. I don't know. Like, it's fuzzy, it's grainy. Like, his face lends itself to some sort of old school actor of some sort. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty legendary headshot somehow. Shouts to Transfermarkt or wherever it is I got it. Next on the list, Milot Rashica, who, as I've mentioned a couple times already, got an assist. Devrim was arguably the better winger against Kayseri. In fact, I rated him higher, I already mentioned. So why isn't he ranked higher than Milot? Well, many will likely forget this, but Rashica actually had a spirited performance against Başakşehir here off the bench in that late comeback victory. He came on, contributed a bit to reversing play and helping us seize control of that match. Granted, Başakşehir went down a man, but whatever. Number 18, Ridvan Yilmaz, and how he's higher than some of these other guys even baffles me. He exposed a flaw in my system, actually. It doesn't even baffle me. I figured it out. Because these guys are graded on a curve, Ridvan, who only featured once but played decently against Göztepe, was served by the fact that so many players were worse than him in that match. So they're graded on a curve and given points based on like how they played relative to their compatriots. And in that match, there were so many players who played poorly, starters even. So, typically like a guy who plays less has less points, and so gets lower down in the pecking order. But because guys actually accrued negative points in the Göztepe match, he rated higher than some. So it's a slight flaw in the system, but not enough of one that I'm going to change the system, because it's such a rare occurrence on the one hand, and I think in a way it even usually gets merited because of the fact that most of these guys play enough that you want them to be hurt by negative outputs in matches. So it is what it is. Sorry for the ambulance sound. Of course, the New York is New Yorking, but yeah, the ambulance as we're reviewing Ridvan Yilmaz is a little bit on the nose. Knock on wood. We don't need any more injuries. Number 17, Gabriel Paulista. Gabriel Paulista's an interesting case of a guy who's been effectively replaced, again, knock on wood, and has reached an age that he couldn't argue necessitated it, right? Like, it's not like we didn't need someone who could be stepping in to take his place eventually. Man, New York is really New Yorking right now. Speaking of ambulance as well, I guess another one, Paulista. He only featured in the match against Göztepe and wasn't at his best. Khan was exceptionally hard on him. I didn't think he was as responsible for the goals that we allowed as Khan did. I had him rated as our, 8th best performer on the day out of 15. So, I mean, it's not like I rated him very highly. But, he was one slot above Ridvan Yilmaz. He didn't have a negative performance, and on a day when others did. So, there's a world where we're stuck with Gabriel Paulista as our starting right central back, and if he stays healthy, we're okay with it. But it's actually a great development that Thiago Jallo has essentially seized that position through playing well, and not through necessity like a major injury. Although Paulista was already injured earlier this season, which is what kind of opened the door for Jallo. Again, a perfect scenario. That's what you got him for as insurance, and then the fact that he's good enough to actually keep that spot is icing on the cake. So anyway, 17 Paulista, and if he doesn't play much going forward and gets hurt in the power rankings, I think it's the price we're all willing to pay. No offense, man. Moving on, Jota Silva. Jota was better against Göztepe than he was for Kocaelispor, and yet he scored in the latter match, sort of. We don't really know how that's going to shake out, but he will likely look back far more fondly on the win at home than his debut, even though he was better in his debut, because that was the match against a dominant Göztepe side that trounced us. So yeah, he got to celebrate the fans in the second match, and you know he did whatever the cartel punches. He did the whole freaking thing at the end, you know, whatever the hell it is. Yeah, I don't know. Here's so many more. I think he's going to get a lot more playing time now if Tammy is out for extended time, because that means El Bilal today is going to be our starting striker, meaning he's likely our starting left wing, which I think he should have been playing anyway. Not because El Bilal today has been bad. I mean, you could argue he's not quite what we've needed as far as chance creation, and we need an actual winger who can create chances. So in a way, I hoped Jota would play over El Bilal today anyway, but also because, like, imagine El Bilal Touré got injured because he was playing so much as a left wing, and then Tammy gets injured, and we don't have a backup striker. So, like, we do need a backup striker, and so it's a little. You're playing a dangerous game, starting him as your winger, and then hoping, yeah. Like, now that Tammy's injured, we see the price that one could have paid. Luckily, it wasn't the other way around, sort of. I mean, insofar as, yeah, if El Bilal Touré was injured, you can almost predict an injury for Tammy given his history. Like, hopefully not a long-term one, and we hope this one isn't long-term. But yeah, anyway, it is what it is. I hope Jota plays, and I hope he grasps that left wing spot in this opening in the way that others like Jallo and Emirhan Topçu have in recent weeks. And yeah, ends up our starting left wing. Anyway, moving on. Number 15, Gökhan Sazdai, who will henceforth be referred to simply as Sazdai. The announcer on beIN's USA only calls him Sazdai, and I love that for some reason. And we're only going to refer to him as Sazdai because he is more than merely a player. He's something of an experience, right? Against Başakşehir here, he looked like a revelation, a steal even. Against Göztepe, a liability. He was terrible. He contributed to the trouncing that we got at the hands of them. So hopefully we'll get more of the former than the latter. But, you know, I mean, I think he sort of leveled it out in his performances since then. He didn't play against Kayseri, obviously he wasn't available. But, you know, against Kocaeli, he was okay. I think I had him as our 11th best player, which, you know, as long as you're in the top 11 as a starter, that's fine, right? Like, Svensson was displaced by some guys, and that was worrisome. So, yeah, I mean, maybe he won't even be maybe he will be a minor step up from Jonas Svensson. We'll see. I'm not completely gonna remove the potential for that to be the case. Some people are like Khan is already getting kind of hard on him. I think we'll see how that goes. Number 14, Cengiz Ünder. When the hero of the Başakşehir match is this low in the monthly power rankings, it's a good sign that he was quite poor in his stint against Göztepe, hurt his standing, but it was a bad match for most. And he had a good response on Monday. He was actually, you know, he didn't have any stats or anything, but he played pretty well against Kocaelispor. So there he is, number 14. And yeah, now we're starting to get into players who really contributed some real stuff this month. I mean, Sazdai, obviously, Jota Silva even. So next up is Kartal Kayra Yilmaz, and I think it's a bit of a step back from him. He didn't feature as much as he was being featured before Sergen came in. Against Başakşehir, he didn't play well, and then he put out a dud in Izmir. Luckily, he picked up his performances against Kayseri and Kocaeli, likely consolidating his place in Sergen's rotation. And I say that because in the previous match he didn't play at all, so there was some question. You know, is he persona non grata? But no, not quite. And here we get into our top 11, where you want to be if you want to get a starting role. Number 12, Vaclav Černý, just outside the starting 11, but it's worth noting he didn't play in every match this month. He wasn't available for Kayseri. He makes his very first appearance at the power rankings. And here's to many more. He may have been at his best in his debut against Başakşehir, but he followed up with a poor outing in Izmir against Göztepe, but responded well in Monday's W against Kocaelispor. Obviously, he scored a goal in that one. Even if it was more on the keeper being a dummy, we'll take it. And I know Vaclav Černý would. He seemed happy to, you know, get to kiss the logo and all of that stuff. You know, he had fun with the win. Yeah, and he's had sort of an up and down performance thus far with us, but it's to be expected, and hopefully he settles in and has more ups than downs. But I think we've all seen enough to feel like that's definitely a possibility, if not even a likelihood. Anyway, next up is number 11, so we're into our starting 11, and guess who's in there? It's Thiago Jallo. rightfully perhaps, there's a distinct possibility that Dello has become our de facto starter at right central back. He would certainly rank higher if he hadn't played only twice in September. He was not played against Göztepe, and Sergen was criticized for it by some. I think the argument to be made for it was he was playing Paulista and Felix under the notion that he'd play them against Kayseri, since we couldn't play guys who weren't registered, like Thiago Jallo. And then I think theoretically Paulista played poorly enough. I mean, maybe Sergen agrees more with Khan than me, which would make sense. But he played poorly enough that maybe Sergen then decided to go with Felix and Emirhan. And then Emirhan played so well against Kayseri. Spoiler alert, he was in the green for me in that match. But yeah, Thiago Jallo, let's see. He rated for me against Kayseri. Where was he? He didn't play against Kayseri. Başakşehir, he was our 8th best player. Which, not great, but not poor. He and Felix were, I thought, about equally as good in that match. And then, against Kocaelispor, he was our 5th best player, I thought he was very good. So, credit to him for that. He may well have cemented his place in the starting lineup with that performance against Kocaeli. We'll see. Should be interesting. And then number 10, Emirhan Topçu, who only played twice this month, but shined nonetheless. He may have left the month of September. As part of our new starting central back tandem, which is quite surprising given Sergen's initial hesitance regarding playing him. Yeah, and like I said, I was worried he didn't play him for his first 3 matches in charge at all, and it looked like he wasn't going to get any chance. And I think Paulista played so poorly he felt like he had to give him a shake against Kayseri. And yeah, for me, he was our 3rd best player in the green. We had 3 guys in the green. It was Rafa, Orkun, and Emirhan Topçu. And then, against Kocaeli, not quite as good. I had him as our 8th best. So yeah, he and Thiago kind of changed. I think Thiago was 8th best against Başakşehir here. Emirhan 8th best against Kocaeli. But that, like, in games when you win, when you have a bunch of guys who play well, that's not necessarily, it doesn't mean you weren't good. It could just mean he was one of many good players who had a positive impact. So, yeah, anyway, for both of them, I think it was actually a good month, even though they only played twice. Yeah, it's telling that they rated this high despite only playing twice, probably. Same goes for Wilfred Ndidi, who's injured against Başakşehir, which hurt, and then again out against Göztepe, which hurt even more given the loss, and because Necip was a huge part of why we lost, and he was playing in his position. But he left both matches. He was returned after Göztepe and was good in Kayseri and great against Kocaelispor. So against Kayseri, I had him as our 6th best player, which was a good 6th. And against, when you're winning 4-0, like, there are a number of guys who weren't in the green but were like just outside of it, and he was one of those guys. And then against Kocaelispor, I had him as our 2nd best player in the green, so he was exceptional in that match. And he's been almost, and every time he's played, he's been exceptional. And frankly, I think he'd be a lot higher in the power rankings if he just played more. And injuries have played a role in that. Hopefully that isn't a thing. He did walk off after, came out of both of these last 2 matches in which he played well, walking gingerly, so hopefully that's not a thing. Supposedly he's back in training, so it doesn't look like it is, and he will play against Galatasaray today, which could be really important, especially since we might not have Tammy Abraham. Anyway, now we're into the top 8, and things are getting exciting. Number 8, Felix! People are going to be shocked by that. But in part, look, it's because he's played 3 matches when all of our other central defenders played 2 or 1. And he played fairly well. Felix was decent against Başakşehir here. I'll give you details. I had him as our 7th best player. One of few good performers in the Göztepe blunder. I had him as our 3rd best player in that match. But nobody was in the green. Nobody was, I think, Elbilal Ture and Demir Ege were close to being in the green. They were the only 2. And then 3rd, it was a big drop-off after that. So it was a bad 3rd for Felix. But it gave him some points he maybe didn't really merit. And then he was our 4th best player against Kayserispor in that win. And then didn't play against Kocaelispor. But again, Emirhan Topçu probably merited that spot, playing even better than Felix. in the Kayseri match. And yeah, Jallo was really Paulista's replacement as a right central back. So, you know, I think we'll likely see a lot more of Felix Uruguay than we do Paulista. But if we don't, and Emirhan and Jallo are our new starting central defenders, I don't think we would hate that. Even though, again, right, 8th best player this month, and a pretty solid month for Felix, actually, everything considered. I'm still not angry that he might not be a starter. Anyway, 7th best of the month is El Bilal Touré. The Fresh Prince has played so well that he's forced himself into the team for better or worse. He's not a left wing and out of position, wasn't creating chances to the extent we needed. But he showed plenty of positive, to be clear. I'm not anti El Bilal Touré. It's more just that I think we need more chance creation still, and that means that, like, sacrificing a winger to play him maybe isn't what we need to do. That said, maybe we could have been taking Tammy out of games earlier and playing him as a striker more as his backup, which could have prepped him for the role he's going to be playing in for the foreseeable future, one imagines. Anyway, El Bilal Touré, let's see. I had him as our 5th best player against Başakşehir here. Against Göztepe, I had him as... did he play? Oh yeah, he was our best player against Başakşehir. Or sorry, against Göztepe. Not a great match for anyone, but he was actually pretty solid there. He didn't play against Kayseri, of course, and then against Kocaeli, it was actually his weakest performance of his 3. He was our 9th best player in that one. But again, it's a solid 9th. Anyway, yeah, El Bilal Touré, 7th best player of the month. Demir Ege Tiknaz, 6th best. Demir Ege has steadily become more and more reliable as the season has progressed. It culminated in a truly heroic moment against Başakşehir. His assist of Cengiz being sublime. One of few bright spots in Izmir. Get well, he was injured. I think he'll be back soon. He's supposed to be mid-October. Yeah, he was our 3rd best player against Başakşehir with, again, a lovely assist. 2nd best player against Göztepe. Again, he and El Bilal were the only 2 players I thought played well. 9th best against Kayseri, and then didn't play against Kocaeli because of injury. So he might have even ranked higher if he'd played in that last match. And so, yeah, next up, Tammy Abraham. Only a single goal against Kayseri and an assist against Kocaeli Sport, but he was finding his footing with new teammates coming into the squad with each successive match, right? So it hasn't been easy to settle given all of that, but he really did look to be just about there before the tragic injury that occurred against Kocaeli Spor, in which he dislocated his shoulder, which is a recurring thing for him. So, you know, we'll see how long he's out. Hopefully it's not too bad, but it didn't look good. He was crying. It looked like he felt like this was something long-term. Hopefully he was just emotional in the moment and wrong. Anyway, he was our 13th best player against Başakşehir. One of his weaker matches for us, actually. But our 5th best player against Göztepe, again, not a very solid 5th, but our 5th best player against Kayseri, and that was a very good 5th, on the verge of a green performance. And then our 7th best player, actually, against Kocaeli Spor, he had an assist in that one. It was a good 7th. Yeah, and just a solid month, ending up in 5th. With obviously the injury being the sour note to it all. So drum roll, please. Who is in the top 4? By process of elimination, you can probably figure out some of those folks, but here we go. Number 4, Mert Günok, which some might be surprised to see him there. Mert was at his best against Başakşehir. I had him as our 2nd best player. Against Göztepe, he wasn't really to blame for the shoddy defense. He was rated really poorly statistically by FOTMob. I had him as our 4th best player, but again, it was a big drop-off after 2. But yeah, I didn't hold him responsible for any of those goals. He was fine when he was called on against Kayserispor. I had him as our 8th best player. He had statistically an amazing game against Kayseri somehow. I don't know how they decided that. But then he was at his worst against Kocaeli. He did poorly on Tayfur's shot, kind of got there, hit his hand, and still went into the goal somehow, which is never a good look for a keeper. And his passing was terrible again, as it was against Alanya. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he played a lot, which contributes to him rating this highly, and he had some really good outings, actually, which is how he rated this highly. But one kind of stinker. And, you know, I don't, again, like, where did he rank in Kojeli? He was our 10th best player out of 15, so it's not like he wasn't in the red or anything like that. And in fact, he had a pretty solid first half. It all kind of came apart for him in the second, so I don't think it even hurt him points-wise that much, but he showed us, like, why I think a lot of Beşiktaş fans are still secretly hoping we come up with a long-term replacement for him in the next few transfer windows. But anyway, moving on to number 3, and this is a good one. I'm glad to see him there. David Jurasek. Our much maligned left back had fans calling for his head early on, but one would hope they have calmed down since, given that his performances have really turned around. He was consistently good and exceptional versus Kocaelispor. Against Başakşehir here, I had him as our 9th best player. Not great. Solid 9, though. Against Göztepe, I had him as our 6th best player. Against Kayseri, I had him as our 7th best player, a good 7th. And then against Kocaeli, I had him in the green, our 3rd best player, but like he got a lot of points there. He was really good against Kocaelispor. I was really glad to hear Cartel give him praise in the last episode that I wasn't there to back him up on that, but yeah, Jurasek, definitely his best performance with us so far. Which yeah, I mean, Emirhan Topçu had his best performance in a Beşiktaş shirt in the previous match against Kayserispor. Jurasek, his best performance in our Beşiktaş shirt. Granted, a much smaller window in that case, but yeah, against Kocaeli. And so yeah, things are trending in the right direction for David. You hope that continues. And of course, number 2, Orkun Kokcu. Whenever you think Orkun didn't have an outsized impact on proceedings, do yourself a favor and rewatch those matches. Rewatch those matches, focusing on what he's doing off the ball to close lanes and gaps, to make key stops, to turn defense into offense, etc. Finally got his first assist in Kayseri, so we like to see him getting stats like that. But no, really, like, he had a fantastic month. Best player against Başakşehir here, only player in the green for me. Against Göztepe, he didn't play because of the red card, which was a shame. So he was our best player despite the red card. He was rated poorly because of the red card too by Fatma, but if you watch, he was so pivotal in that one. Second best player against Kayserispor in the green, one of those 3 guys in the green. And then against Kocaelispor, he was the one guy just outside of the green. He was 4th best. Could have been in the green if not for a few sort of careless passes. And, I think he got a little tired towards the end of this one, and we were up by 2 goals and whatever. But yeah, great month for Orkun. Really laying a claim for the seasonal power rankings, which we'll get to in a moment. Which, of course, leaves number 1, Rafa Silva, who had, you don't want to say his best month for the club, because those first 2 matches weren't great, but these last 2 were easily his best 2-match stretch in the black and white. To say that Rafa found his form in the month of September is like saying the Titanic may have made contact with something in the North Atlantic. Rafa might have had one of his best months in the black and white. 4 big goals in that, like, it helped turn the season, helped get some momentum under a new manager, all of it. Like, if we use these last couple matches as a springboard to make something of this season, in large part it will be because of what Rafa contributed in these last 2 matches. Again, it's funny saying his best month, maybe, because it was really just the latter half of the month, but certainly his best half of a month in the black and white for sure. 4 goals, just like 2 or 3 stunners within him, and yeah, like the type of matches where he puts the club on his back and carries us hopefully to the promised land. I mean, I don't know. We're not winning a championship the way Galatasaray is playing, but I mean, I don't know. Knock on wood. We've got them on Saturday. This could be a huge. I mean, if we were to somehow beat them, I don't know. Again, I'm gonna knock on wood again because I don't want to put that. Don't you put that on me, Bobby. Yeah, no, we're good. That's it for our power rankings. Rafa Silva ends the month atop the power rankings. Here you see them again. You can pause here and see all of them in sequence on one page. Rafa, Orkun, David Jurasek, Mert Günok, Tammy Abraham, Demir Ege Tiknaz, El Bilal Toure, Felix Urukai, Wilfred Ndidi, Emirhan Topçu, and Thiago Jallo rounding out the top 11. If there's a problem in there, it's that there's 3 central defenders in the top 11 and no right back. But this was Sazdai's first appearance in the power rankings. That could change. You know, he didn't play in every match this month. He didn't play against Kayseri. Hopefully he'll elevate himself into that top 11 as far as like impact and you know, we won't feel like we're losing on that side of the pitch defensively the way we sort of did at times, honestly, this month. Anyway, before we see how this contributes to the seasonal power rankings, which are getting exciting, now we're starting to get a real glimpse of what things are going to probably look like for the rest of the season. Let's rehash what things looked like one more time going into this month. Sequence for us. Yeah, again, João Mario was atop the power rankings, right? Tammy Abraham second, Orkun Kokcu third, Paulista fourth, Rafa Silva fifth. Now let's look at how things shake out after what we've already been through for this month. Excuse me. Let's see if I can expand this a little bit, make it a little bigger. There we go. So, number one after this month is Orkun Kokcu. You see, we already have 35 players in the power rankings, which means we've already had 35 guys play for us, which is, I think, already more than we had all of last season, which is wild, I guess. It just shows you how large the roster was coming into the season and how unsettled it was, and how much tinkering has been done thus far. But yeah, Orkun Kokcu ends the month on top, with Rafa Silva really so close, just behind. As far as my points go, he's literally 1 point behind him right now. Oh, no, actually, that's not true. He's like 4 points, but it's easy to make up that few points. The top 3 with Tammy in third is really like pretty neck and neck. From there, you have João Mario, Jurasek, Mert Günok, and Gabriel Paulista, also kind of neck and neck for between 4 and 7. Emirhan Topçu, Felix Urukai, Ndidi, also in that next batch. Ndidi's going to go up. I would even predict that he might threaten the top. He'll definitely threaten the top 5. Maybe threaten the top 2, top 3. You know, I think given Tammy's injury, if he's out for extended playing time, I wouldn't be surprised if Ndidi is in the top 3 at the end of October. To be honest. But yeah. So now we're starting to get a real glimpse of what things are going to look like. Obviously, the big jumps this month. You saw Paulista going down. I guess let's start there. João Mario went from 1st to 4th, which is a shame, but you have to expect it. Rafa Silva up to 2nd from 5th, so he took a big jump up. Jurasek up from 9th into 5th, so he took a big jump this month. Mert Günok also, but you know, he's our goalkeeper. You want him to be up there. He wasn't for much of last season, so it's actually a good sign that he started out on solid footing. Indeed, he went down, but that's lack of playing time, right? He was out for two of these 4 matches, so hopefully he'll start playing more regularly. Svensson's down, as you'd expect. Thiago Jallo's up. That's a big jump from 24th to 16th, which again you'd expect, and it'll probably keep going up quite a bit. You'd also imagine. Same for Czerny. He's only in 17th, but that was his first. This is his first month in the power rankings, so yeah, I mean. Pause, you could take a look if you want to see really more of this stuff in depth, but yeah, you're starting to get a real sense of things. You'll see some of those guys in the back who are appearing on this list for the first time go up. I mean, one wonders about like Devrim Şahin. He might stay down there if he doesn't play much, and you don't expect him to play much given that we have Jota Silva and El Bilal Toure and Milot Rashica even, and you know, others like that to play on the wings, but we'll see, man. I don't know. It's fun to see the power rankings start to take shape, and I think you're starting to see some accuracy here for sure, right? Orkun has been our most consistent performer all season. Rafa is starting to maybe make a claim for that. Let's see how this plays out. Tammy, again, I hope he comes back from injury soon and he contributes keeps contributing in a way that he's pressing for that. I mean, who knows? Maybe he finishes at the top of the power rankings. If he has a few good months of scoring, it could happen, right? Cheeto fell off last year. He was vying for those top spots until he started having the injury bug. It'd be great if that's not the case for Tammy Abraham. But yeah, it should be interesting. I'm very. This is where the power rankings start to get fun and really substantive. So, yeah, the arms race begins. But so, I don't know, man. I don't think I have much else to say about power rankings or anything. It's been a good month. Sergei Yelchin 3-1-0, right? Can't really complain much about that. Let's hope October is even better for us as a club. Thank you for giving me the last hour and change, as you typically do every month. For those of you who are not Patreon subscribers, you should be. You could be getting this every month, right at the gates, at the beginning of every month, rather than like a week and change into it. Yeah, man, this is it. That was your power rankings. Orkun ends the month as our most impactful player. Long may that continue. Given his market value, that's about right. I'm sure Khan and I will discuss market value in this upcoming episode. Transfer market screwed us. We'll talk about that in due time. Shouts again to URAL Alhan. Lovely contribution as per usual. And yeah, man, I don't think I have anything else to say. Class is dismissed, folks. The bell has rung. Oh, pop culture. I got some fun. Let's see. Usually I don't do literature. I've done comic books. I've done music. Here's a good book. My man Nasty Nas is talking about how he's always reading nonfiction. Here's a fiction book. If you're looking for something good to read, Louis de Bernier. It's called Birds Without Wings. It actually takes place in modern day Turkey, but at the time it was sort of at the very end of the Ottoman Empire, and it's about that phase where nationalism creeps into the global ethos and starts to divide people who historically were living side by side as neighbors and friends of different ethnicities, who suddenly find themselves demarcated and defined by new terms and sort of told to hate each other based on this and that. So, I mean, really, it's a fascinating book. It gives you a real glimpse into how diverse Turkey really is, ethnically speaking, and how much of that was killed by modernity and nationalism and the sort of some of the ideas that came with it. Not that I'm against modernity or anything of that sort, but that's one aspect of I'm not big on nationalism, I suppose. But anyway, great book, highly suggested, great writer, Louis de Bernier, Birds Without Wings. Check it out, kind of nice historical fiction. And on that note, peace out, everyone. Bang, 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 bang. Shouts out to all of our Patreon subscribers. Nate Dogg, Nasty Nas, Murder Merit. Actually, he's not even one, but the Pope, Attil, Le Financier, of course. But he's a contributor. He doesn't even count. Anyway, peace out, everyone. See you next month. Hope October brings us as much joy as September did. I mean, or more joy. Let's say more. I hope it brings us much more joy, and that every month from henceforth does, both in terms of Beşiktaş and personally, especially to you Patreon subscribers, because you're making the magic happen. Peace out, everyone. Jalen Brunson season, so I'm blowing out kisses. Later!